Hi, everyone. My name is Purvi Patel. First of all, welcome to University of Chicago. For those of you that have moved in and are in Hyde Park, welcome to Hyde Park. I am your neighbor. You will see me on the streets of Hyde Park. My name is Purvi, like I mentioned before. I use preferred gender pronouns she, her, and hers. And my role at the university and at the IOP is I serve as Director of Civic and Campus Engagement. My colleague, who's titled IOP in her Zoom account, but she's more than just a rep of the IOP, is also on the call, Ashley Jordan. She'll be dropping links that I referenced in the chat today, and there'll be time for us to answer questions at the end, but feel free to use the chat function to ask questions, and if I can cover it, it's easy thing for me to cover in my already existing spiel, I will, and if not, I will make sure to cover it at the end. As a way to start, the IOP, I know we're starting virtually, is a house on 57th and Woodlawn. So it's right next to the Neubauer Collegium, right next to campus and student life, a couple houses down from Hillel and from the seminary co-op. We are normally a place that where the doors are open and you can walk on in, and all of that has changed in this COVID environment. But what is one of the most special and vibrant things about our community is not just the house, the speakers, the resources. It is actually the student community. And you will see and still have lots of different ways to engage with your fellow students, whether they're in your own class, the folks that live within your building or in your residential hall, or the upperclassmen and returning students who are all super engaged and excited to welcome you as well. So we're going to jump right in to explaining who we are at the IOP. The Institute of Politics was started in 2012. Our founder and still current director, David Axelrod, left the Obama campaign and White House as senior advisor, and he really was inspired by working with young people on campaigns and wanted to continue the legacy of engaging young folks in politics and public service broadly. David is a U Chicago alum, and the story that he often shares that I think in some ways can still resonate from time to time is that when he attended University of Chicago, it was a place where it was really theoretical. And he felt that his classes did a really good job preparing him intellectually for the ivory tower, but weren't necessarily giving him the tools to engage in the things that the pressing issues of the day that were happening right outside the boundaries of the campus or to the communities that surround us. And so we are a completely nonpartisan extracurricular organization. Anything that you do with us is not necessarily credit bearing, but we do have lots of different ways to still be doing learning, engaging, skill development. And we also think about politics and public service in as broad a tent as possible. One of the things that our students often challenge us on is we know that not everyone is interested in the work of electoral politics. Certainly we have a ton of folks who maybe are or currently or former elected officials that come in and have conversations with students, but that's not the only pathway to creating social change and creating the change you want to see in your community. And we think about politics and public service to be really broad, to include journalists, to include community organizers, advocacy folks, folks in philanthropy. The table and the tent is really big, and there's lots of different pathways to engage, no matter what your interest is, no matter what way you see change happening in your own theory of change. So where you should start first is to stay in the know about everything. Subscribe to our newsletter. It comes out every Monday morning, and it hosts all of the links where you can sign up to RSVP for events, fellow seminars, special opportunities. It really is your one-stop shop. We put a lot of information into the newsletter, so you want to just make sure you get it and that you're on the list. And there's no way to do that unless you sign up. Like there's no way that I can opt you in automatically. So please do sign up for the newsletter, which the link is in the chat. In addition to that, our Facebook and Instagram are really important parts of our community. In some ways, and I'll reference this later, you can see some of our streamed conversations on Facebook. You'll be kept in the know around what events are happening. And sometimes I am guilty of this. catching up on email can be really hard. And so social media and our Facebook and Instagram pages are often places where you can, it's another reminder, and it's another place for you to sign up for events and be in the know on folks that are coming through the center in some way or another, or through the Institute. So the last piece of advice that I have for you is, no matter what, just show up. Like, come to our events. Don't feel like you need to know everything about a topic or a content area to participate. Feel like you can raise your hand and ask a question, even if it's a simple question. You don't have to be super read up on the issue that folks are talking about, or totally well-versed and have done the lit review on someone's bio to be able to engage with them. Don't let arbitrary things kind of be barriers to your engagement and your participation. Just raise your hand, show up, be in the spaces that we invite you to be in. If there's a link where you can sign up for something, that means you can be there. So please do raise your hand and show up. So I'm going to go through each of the different program areas just to give you a sense of what, like, when you get that first newsletter, how all the pieces of the IOP fit together. Our most prominent and probably most visible part of our institute is the speaker series. The IOP brings nearly 150 speakers each academic year, giving students in the greater University of Chicago community the opportunity to interact with and learn from leaders. So last week, Bernie Sanders, that's an example of something that our speaker series produced. You RSVP online. All of those happen on Zoom, and students often are the ones that introduce the speakers, students that are typically involved with our institute. And we also think it's really important, and it's an important value of ours, for students to be able to ask questions directly to speakers. So again, that's another way that you should feel like you can participate. Similarly, those events are announced in the newsletter, and the events are simultaneously streamed on Facebook and posted to YouTube if you can't make it in real time. So don't feel like you have to attend every single thing. Sometimes when I first started at the IOP about 1.5 years ago, I was like, how do I do my actual job when there's so many events going on, all of which that I want to attend? So please do take advantage of the streaming function, the ability to view it later. You can still be a part of the loop and in the know, while also still going to your classes and doing the other things that you're committed to. Some highlights and things that I just want to flag for you all. Our first presidential debate is happening tomorrow. Part of how we typically celebrate the debates is we open up the house, there's a ton of food. There's like 80 people in our living room, which is probably against fire code and is definitely not COVID safe. What we are doing instead this year is we are hosting Slack watch and chats. So if you sign up for our presidential debate party, you'll be joining our Slack channel and join like a one-night chat along opportunity where you can both discuss the debate, discuss what's happening, the ideas that are there, but also meet some upperclassmen as well. Later this week, Emily Landon is going to be at the IOP with David Axelrod, just giving an update on Chicago and Illinois and COVID. Next week, we'll also be hosting Senator Mitt Romney and activist Joshua Wong. So all of those things are things you can sign up for. The link to events sign up is in the chat, so feel free to go there if you're interested in signing up for any of those events. The next opportunity or next major program area is our Pritzker Fellows program. The Fellows are a cohort of folks that come in quarterly, and they, again, range to be a ton of different places and perspectives from the public service table. Part of the way that you can participate is you can attend a seminar or sign up for one-on-one office hours. Typically, those fellows come to University of Chicago. The seminars happen in our living room. And most of the time, fellows actually move to Hyde Park for 6 to 8 weeks. So you see them at like Core Power Yoga or at the grocery store, and they really do become a part of the fabric of our community. During COVID, our fellow seminars are virtual, but they'll still be intimate. So you do actually need to sign up for them, and it's important that you RSVP because those opportunities have a very much a smaller limit because they're meant to be smaller, engaging, and conversational. The second thing, and the link to this is not posted yet, but each of those fellows have one-on-one office hours, 20-minute time slots where you can chat with them. I think that sometimes at first, the idea of a fellow's office hours can sound really intimidating. Please sign up for it. You can talk about anything you want. You don't have to have an agenda. You can have, usually the fellows have offices on the 3rd floor right next to mine. And so I've overheard conversations where students are debating former elected officials on their policy ideas or platforms. Folks are asking for career advice. Sometimes the conversation veers into personal mentoring. Whatever your interest is and whatever your point of connection is, feel free to come and take advantage of those fellows. The fellows want to interact with students, and especially in this virtual circumstance, the fellows even more want to get a sense of like what's happening on campus, what do young people think. They really benefit from you all, so please do take advantage of those things. The fellows this quarter, I'll just give you a quick preview or highlight. Starting from your left at the top, James Bennett is a former editor of the New York Times editorial page and former editor-in-chief of The Atlantic. Jelani Cobb in the top right is staff writer at The New Yorker. Adisu Demisi, bottom left, is a Democratic strategist and founding principal of 50+1 Strategies. He just came off from organizing the DNC and was with Cory Booker's campaign. Scott Jennings, bottom right, is a CNN political contributor, Republican strategist, and founding partner at Run Switch Public Relations. And then Samantha Vinograd, top row in the middle, is a CNN national security analyst. And you can learn more about all of them on their seminar pages that will also be dropped in the chat. The third program area that I want to highlight is career development. Career development at the IOP is run by my fabulous colleague, Melissa Navas. Career development provides students with more than 300 paid internships in the US and around the world. And those internships take place both in the academic year and over the summer. So please keep that in mind. There are actually internships open right now for Chicago-based organizations through 2 different programs. One called ACE, our Activism and Community Engagement cohort, all Chicago-based organizations where your work is starting remotely. And similarly, UPrep, the Policy and Research cohort, where you're paired with Chicago area, local government and community agencies, and you're starting your work remotely. Those are all paid and run through the academic year. Take keep that in mind for applications. And again, please raise your hand and stay engaged and feel like you can apply. First year students are very much encouraged to apply. The information session, that's a really good question, Zara. If international internships are open for the application, typically they tend to open through, and those international internships tend to be the summer ones, mostly because there's an assumption that you're usually here during the academic year. That being said, I will say that our international internships experienced probably the most disruption in this last year due to COVID and travel regulations, so keep that in mind. But that doesn't mean that we're not trying really hard to make sure we're building those relationships, and if there's remote work to happen, that we're also pursuing that. That being said, there was an info session that we just did for the academic year internships that are opened through ACE and UPrep. The actual information session passed, but we recorded it and it's on YouTube, and that link is in the chat here. The last thing that I'll say about career development is even outside of like the formal internship postings, the ones where we actually are setting up the internship site with the employer and have a relationship with the managers, there are often times where you all are really passionate, curious, engaged folks. You might go and find your own internship. And we actually have a pool through this, that's for the summer mostly, that opens up in the late winter and spring for students to get stipends for unpaid internships. So know that there's lots of different pathways for you to get support from career development. Even if it's just like resume review, looking over your materials, getting you ready for something, even if it's not affiliated with the IOP, but it's public service politics related, we want to help you open a door there and help you feel ready. So the civic engagement program is Ashley and I's area. Civic engagement is an opportunity for students to get involved in the community. You can do that a couple of different ways. There's a ton of student-led groups. The groups range from bridge writing workshop, which is focused on weekly in volunteering at Cook County Jail. They're volunteering at a new youth facility. All of that will be happening virtually this year. Doing creative writing workshops with those that are detained or incarcerated. The second groups, we have a couple of different cohort-based groups. W+, which is for women and other gender minorities, folks on the gender spectrum. Second is leaders of color. Those are for students who identify in those groups, exploring public service topics together, building community with one another, and connecting, again, in a range of different politics and public service issues. Tech Team, which is a group that creates discrete tech products for local nonprofits and community organizations. They do incredible work, and you don't necessarily have to have a ton of tech literacy or skills or experience, because they actually do a ton of workshops to get folks ready and make sure that the groups that are working on projects together have a balance of skill sets so people can learn as well as teach and still get the work that they need to do done for the community organizations we're committed to. There's also an open data project through Tech Team that's really interested in data and data transparency at University of Chicago specifically. The Gate is a nonpartisan journalism publication where students can write, whether it's interviews, op-eds, their own reporting. The Gate is launching a emerging writers program that you can apply for, where you join and are part of a cohort, and you get lots of different coaching and workshop opportunities, but also by the end of it, you'll yield a published piece. And it'll be a good way to connect with folks that are also aspiring writers and journalists. I always do this. Ashley, have I left any groups out?
No.
Okay. The only last thing that I'll flag, and it's because it doesn't have a name yet, but you'll start to see some things, especially if you're on all of our social media channels and you sign up for our newsletter. There are actually some students that are really interested in creating a group or a space for LGBT students interested in politics and public service. So if you're interested, reach out to Ashley or I, let us know so that we can connect you with some of those upperclassmen, and we'll make sure that you can join that new community. They're still figuring out how they're going to be organized, but it would be great to have some new students as a part of the mix. In addition to that, part of what civic engagement does is we do a ton of programming that are typically treks and workshops. Often we are traveling around the city or traveling around different parts of the country with students. In this time we cannot travel, but we're still recreating some of that programming, recreating opportunities for you to be able to connect with current practitioners on a range of different areas, whether it's environmental justice or immigration or education broadly. So know that that's an opportunity that you'll start to see some programming around. And again, typically it means that you're usually traveling with us. There's I would say, an informal community that racks up frequent flyer miles with Ashley and I. And in this time when we can't travel, we're still really committed to making sure that they're engaging, interactive experiences, you're building those networks and relationships, and you're kind of getting exposed to a lot of different fields, a lot of different thought leaders. And then the last thing that I will share is we are launching a new program called Civic Dinners, which is an opportunity for students to connect, break bread, meet new people. Returning and upperclassmen students will be serving as hosts, and there are 3 different topic areas that you can have an informal conversation about. The first is racial equity, the second is voting rights, and the third is polarization. So depending on what you might be interested in, if you want to have an informal kind of mealtime conversation, I'd encourage you to connect and sign up for a dinner. As a part of an incentive, students that complete the dinner and complete our survey will actually get a Grubhub voucher, so you will actually get a meal on us. It won't be in real time, but that will still happen. And it's, again, not something that you have to study up on. It's a chance for you to connect to your personal and lived experience, get to hear from others, and hopefully you walk away from that feeling more connected, feeling like you know a couple of different students that you wouldn't have met otherwise, and hopefully can continue the conversation. That's a great question. How do you sign up for CE groups? I'm going to flag an opportunity at the end, but a good place to get started, the CE groups that were linked up here that actually, I don't know that I paired that link, but if you could put the CE group page from the website on in the chat, that'll link you to the page that lists all of their social media handles. I would start by following them and getting added to their email list and that kind of thing. The last thing that or this is not the last thing, another initiative that I want to share is we are 35 days out from the election. If you are eligible to vote, we really want to make sure that you are making sure that you're registered, have the resources that you need to make sure that you can get out to vote. USHI Votes is a student-led, nonpartisan voter engagement initiative founded out of our institute, and it's focused on boosting UChicago turnout. In the midterm election, about 41% of our students voted, which tracked as like one of the higher rates for students broadly in elections. But it's still not great. Like 40, if you got a test back with 40 on it, I think we'd all be pretty disappointed. And I think we can do better. We're a community that's really engaged in politics. You will meet all kinds of folks who will stretch your opinions and challenge you. And voting is another fundamental way that you can participate and make sure your voice is heard. And we want to make sure that people have what they need to be able to do so. So in order to get started, we implore those that are eligible to check their registration at uchicago.turbovote.com or .org, make a voting plan on our Pledge to Vote page, and then volunteer to serve as a voting ambassador. I'm seeing some familiar faces. I know there's some folks that were at today's voting ambassador training. We're gonna have 2 more this week that are coordinated and embedded in your orientation app. And if you can't make those, we'll announce a few more for next week too. So feel free to know that that's coming, but we do actually really need your help. Part of what's made voter engagement work challenging in this time is that dates and deadlines have changed, mail-in ballots and absentee voting has expanded in ways that there typically wasn't the same kind of infrastructure for. So we want to make sure that students are, again, have what they need, have the information they need, know how to fill out their ballots correctly, and that barriers like access to a stamp don't get in the way. So again, for those of you that are first-year residential students, the care package or welcome kit that you got from the IOP has a folder in it with an envelope that has a paid stamp on it already. So please know, it doesn't look like the stamps you would buy yourself from the post office, but they are paid for. We bought them in bulk. And you can use that to make sure your voter registration form gets in. And if there's, again, any sort of barrier or challenge that you're experiencing as you're navigating your own voting, please feel like you can reach out to USHI Votes. Their website is a good first place to start, but you can also message them on social media. So 6 places to just like recap and where you can begin your involvement. We really want you to attend an event or a fellow seminar. Know that that's an easy way to connect in whatever your interests are. If there's a speaker or a fellow that is kind of intriguing to you, feel like you should sign up. Sign up for a fellows office hour. Please don't be intimidated. The fellows are yearning the time to connect with you. And it's a really cool and rare opportunity to get to meet someone that worked at the New York Times and that led major editorial pages or has led major campaigns. And 20 minutes is not a long amount of time. So don't feel like, again, you have to have a whole thesis already written to be able to engage with those folks. They just want to get to know you. They want to know what's on your mind, and they want to be able to engage with you. Attend an IOP civic dinner. Apply for an internship, because there are already some that are open, and we want you to be applying and putting your name in the hat. The 5th thing that I haven't mentioned as much, but you heard about it when I talked about the debate watch party, is we are actually newly going to be really present on Slack. We have an IOP Slack channel. Ashley will drop the link to sign up. We want to make sure it's like a secure space and that it's just you Chicago folks that are in it, but it'll be our place for intimate kind of community connections. You can join the civic engagement channel. That's another good action item for those of you that are interested in the civic engagement groups. And you'll also start to see us putting in resources from the local community. Just it'll be a good place to get informed and connected. And it'll be where we recreate some of our in-person functions. So there'll be a front desk. So if you don't know where to go for questions, there'll be a place in the Slack you can go and feel like you can still connect with people and get your questions answered. And then the last thing is undergraduate students, incoming first year students, please sign up for a new program that we're launching called IOPAL. The goal of IOPAL is to connect incoming students who have similar interests in politics and public policy. So students who complete this, tech team helped us build the matching algorithm, will be sorted into small groups. And it'll be a community for you to discuss news of the day, debate policy, share reading suggestions, or again, get connected at maybe outside of your residence hall, outside of those that you're in classes with. Each group will be pretty small and intimate because we really do want you to become friends with each other or pals of sorts and feel like you have someone that you can maybe attend an event together or not be the only lonesome Zoom face that you don't know kind of thing. So IOPAL is another simple, easy way to get started, and it's really particularly designed for undergraduate first year students. So with that, I will just pause. I have Audrey I'm gonna go to the questions quickly in the chat. Audrey said, when will it be sorted? We're gonna probably do that in the first 2 weeks or so, so you'll get a notification. In terms of the recording, we'll follow up with the recording and we'll make sure that folks can get a recording, but we're also gonna take this recording and place it on the Canvas page with the help from our friends in the College Programming Office. So you'll be able to refer back to this through that place as well. You won't need to necessarily dig through all of your IOP emails. Any other questions? Feel free to unmute yourself and ask in real time or in the chat. Folks are asking if there's a certain time we need to sign up for IOPAL by. Ashley, do you remember what the deadline is?
I think it's like a rolling thing that they're doing based upon the numbers that we get and the amount of interest. So it's rolling. It's a rolling application.
It is. I would say that though, to help us gauge that, if you are interested, please just sign up for us and it'll help us know how many are we going to match? What is that going to look like? That kind of thing. Any other questions?
You mentioned that we could sign up for the GATE, I think it was the Junior Writers Program. Other than that, how else can we get involved with the GATE and other publications with the IOP?
You don't need to necessarily be a part of the Juniors Writers Program. It's an entry point in. You could start by submitting articles today. They typically have Sunday pitch meetings and they send pitches out where they're inviting submissions on a range of topic areas, but you can always propose your own. So feel like the GATE actually feels like very rolling in terms of if you have an idea, you want to get involved, make sure you're part of their social media infrastructure, make sure you're a part of their Facebook and follow them on Twitter. And if you already have ideas and want to report on stuff, send the editors an email and they're all ears and open to it.
All right,
good question.
I was wondering how we would get involved with the Leaders of Color programming.
Thanks, Sarah. So Leaders of Color, their cohort experience typically happens in the winter quarter. So does the W+ program. Their institute experience happens in the winter quarter. What you can expect from them in the fall quarter is some programming. So there'll be some networking opportunities, chance for you to meet some upperclassmen. All of that was really important and are important traditions before in a pre-COVID time, but are especially important now. Upperclassmen really want to connect with you. And there'll be a lot of different student-led discussion events and that kind of thing. So a first place to start is to follow them on their social media.
I had attempted to sign up for just a little bit before this, the Mitt Romney event, and it wasn't, I was just wondering if anyone had success at that. I got a notification that said, sorry about this, the system couldn't find the record you requested. So I was wondering if that was a specific thing that just is a problem with me and I should email someone, or if everyone was having that issue. Okay,
it sounds like you're not. So something that we can do is what we'll do is I'm just gonna enter your name in this, Layla. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
I'm muted. Yes, it's Layla.
Okay, perfect. We will follow up. If anyone that got that error message will indicate that in the chat, we'll follow up with you all one-on-one and make sure that over email. So please look out for it, and we'll make sure you get the right link.